good?
This meeting is being recorded.
You're being
This meeting is
recorded.
being recorded, yes.
So I'm going to share with you guys, because you guys don't know each other, except for maybe a couple people do, but I know everybody. So I'm going to share how I know everybody, and then we'll, Phoebe and I and Campbell, who know about Brightline, will share what we know so far. Not all of it, because that would take too much time, but just some good stuff. So I know Phoebe because Phoebe's my best friend, and we've been best friends since the first day of first grade.
1966. Yes, ma'am.
So,
Wow.
so that's how we know each other. We lived
couple of years.
around the corner from each other for a long, long time. And
Yes,
Campbell is my beautiful daughter,
very much.
Beautiful.
and I've known her for
Ever.
as long as she's been on the planet. 24 years. And
That's pretty cool.
Athena is my right-hand person at work, my rock and my encourager and my helper, my loan assistant. And
Very
she's
cool.
a favorite to all my customers. And Farah is one of my customers that settled. I've actually worked with her a couple times.
Yes.
And I think I shared with her the Brightline eating plan about a year and a half ago or so.
It was last May.
Yeah.
But I get to read the book till this May.
So sometimes it takes a while. So then she read it when she was on vacation just like a week or so ago,
Yeah.
and called me up and we were talking about it again. So I'm really, really excited about that, because sometimes you just don't know, you get ready when you get ready, and that's how it works. So I got Brightline Eating from Phoebe, who shared it with me many times because I was doing another program.
You said that's close enough.
And it was pretty close. They're pretty close
was.
to one another, except for the other program, no fruit. So I ate no fruit for 3 years, which was really hard.
Yeah.
And but the rest of it was pretty close, not exact, not as good, but the other program was very grinding, and after I would get off of it, it would just weight just started creeping back up. So I finally decided, because I didn't want to go back on the other program, and I had also tried WW, and that kept me stable, but I couldn't lose weight on it because I used all my points to eat junk food.
I don't understand.
And they have lots of snacks with low points that are pretty much junk food. So I ate that too. So that didn't work. And so then I decided that I would give Brightline a try. And I read the book and I was like, oh my God, this is just like everything that you need to know and should have known, and so helpful to know how food interacts with your brain and your body. And it was just so much great information that it was very inspiring. So I started doing the program with Phoebe's help and encouragement, and then it started working like right away. And then my daughter kind of asked me what I was doing, and I told her, and then I asked her if she wanted to read the book, and she said no. And then I think about a month later, maybe something like that, she asked me again, and I asked her if she wanted to read the book, and she said no. But then she did ask me again, and I asked her if she wanted to read the book, and I gave it to her, and she read it in less than a day, I think. She's a power speed reader. And she's like the guru. She's so great at Brightline. So she'll have lots of insight. She'll be our queen of the
Sounds
Brightline group. She's awesome. So I'll let Phoebe share with how she got started.
My employer, I work at a fabric store with 3 women that own the store. And one of them is, well, at the time was very, very large, had massive health issues, breathing issues. She was on nebulizers and I mean, all kinds of stuff. She was just a mess. I think 270 pounds she was. And she started doing the Bright Lines, and I thought, well, that's nice. And she didn't talk about it much. She just did it. And she started to melt away. She was disappearing. It's like, where'd you go? So I asked her about it and she said, oh, it's really easy. You just weigh your food, blah, blah, blah. She said, but no sugar and no flour. I'm like, yeah, right. Okay. That's not happening. But I kept watching her and I kept doing other stupid things thinking, oh, you know, I can get rid of the weight and I could drop some pounds, but my belly never went away. It just was there. And I felt like I'm always going to look like I'm 5 months pregnant. I did not want to look that way. So I finally decided, well, so I asked her about it and she told me about it. Now, I love to read, but I never have time to read. So I listen, and I got the Bright Lines book on Audible and I listened to it and I thought, huh. So it took me about 6 months to get my head around it. And I did buy the Bright Lines cookbook. And I found that really helpful because it showed me how to prepare the foods, what kind of foods. As long as you tell me I can do it. I don't want to have to think, just tell me and I'll do it. So I tried it. There was a 14-day challenge and I tried the 14-day challenge. And in that 14 days, I lost 10 pounds. I was like, woo! Of course, it took a lot longer to lose the rest of it, but you know, I was still happy for those days. So I got on it and Laura was telling me about her woes. And I was like, well, there is this thing, Bright Lines eating. Yeah, well, I'm close enough. I don't really want to. I don't think I got this. I'm like, okay. So she would then complain that she kept trying to lose these same, and she was killing herself to lose those last little bits. And I said, you know, there's this thing called Bright Lines and it really works pretty well. And yeah, well, I'm doing kind of close to it. I don't need to do that. I'm like, uh-huh. Okay.
Common themes.
I'll tell you. So she kept, you know, da, 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 da. I said, there's Bright Lines. She said, all right.
I'd be kicking and screaming.
Well, that's how most of us are. We don't want to give up our flour and we don't want to give up our sugar. I mean, I still love bread and I still love sugar, but I don't dare go near it because as soon as I start, and I mean, I'm not compulsive about it, but I do a lot of little bits, just a little bitty here, a little bitty there. And then it creeps up again. It's like, okay, I'll behave myself now. So I must admit, I've been doing this. It's like, I'm being really good and I'm at my goal weight, or, you know, I'm pretty good. I feel comfortable. I'm just going to have a little bit of chocolate because, you know, chocolate. And I have a chocoholic husband and I'll be trying to be really good and he'll have ice cream and little mini Hershey bars. And it's like, so if I'm being good, then he feels threatened. So I will digress and go off the program and then get good again until he makes me feel bad again. So because he refuses, he says, no, you should never be denied anything in your life. I'm like, okay. And whatever works for you, you know. You can't, so.
You're not being denied it. It's there. It's
Well,
open.
no,
It's available. You
he thinks you
choosing
should not
not
cut
to.
out anything, you know, you should not cut out a food group. And he figures that sugar is a food group because it kind of is.
Sugar is not a food group.
It's
not an essential-
Not argue with a sick mind. You know that.
It's not an essential ingredient to life. It's just
It depends on your opinion on that. We all know factually, but you know,
he's a scientist.
he is, and he makes his own facts. He's a scientist. He can do that. There's a saying. It's might makes right. Well, his name is Mike, and Mike makes right.
That's funny.
So I chuckle at him and I laugh and we have a good time together. And every once in a while I'll fall off my bandwagon. And yeah, a friend sent me, not only did I fall off the bandwagon, I burned it, I torched it, I melted it down, and I sold the iron for cookies.
Mhm.
It's like, Yeah, I feel that way once in a while.
Yeah,
That's when the nasty beast talks to me.
I know, the saboteur,
It is
comes.
right there.
So Campbell, share with us how you got started.
Oh boy. My journey's not quite as nice. I am like a super duper, like 14 on the susceptibility scale. I struggle quite a bit. I was struggling kind of when my mom, was trying to get me to read the book, and my mom has been try to get me to read books like my entire life, like a little 8-year-old, like, read this book on personal finance, you're like, so excuse my skepticism, but
What would mom know after all?
Yeah, exactly. And so my story kind of, I guess, wasn't actually, too much brighter than Susan Pierce Thompson's. I was, I was pretty deep in the trenches where I would, I'll eat until I'm sick. Like, I'll eat until I throw up, and then I'll keep eating, and, I'll leave my house in the middle of the night, to go get more food. Like, I used to work in a pharmacy, and I would, like, in my more dark times, I would steal like drugs so that I would suppress my appetite and all this stuff. It was crazy. And I was exhausted. I literally was watching myself go crazy. Like, I'm not a dumb person. Like, I could see that these things are wrong and like way above anything that I can really process and handle. And so I was just exhausted, and I kind of was at a point where I could not, I felt like I just had to give up. Like, I had, I had struggled with my weight my whole life. I had been obese, and then I went on this crusade for like 8 months where I just basically stopped eating for like 8 months, and I lost like over 100 pounds. And then, the cycle just goes right back up, and it's like you start to gain it back, and you get scared because it's like, oh my gosh, like, I lost all that weight and now I'm gonna lose it, just get it all back. Like, what is it even for? And so then I read the book eventually, because I was so exhausted, and I was like, like, maybe they got something, And so I read the book, and I cried when I read it, because I was just like, oh, this is me. And so I just kind of, from there, I kind of took it in stride, and it was really hard for me in the beginning. I would just kind of like have to leave the house. Like, I would just have to like go for a walk, because I just couldn't be near my kitchen. Like, I would leave my purse, so I couldn't like have my card with me or anything, so I could like buy stuff. It was a little nuts, but I'm definitely kind of like my mom says, I'm a little bit more strict, but that's just because I'm a special brand of crazy. And so
Susceptible, not crazy.
yeah,
exactly.
We all have our form of craziness. We're all
We
a little bit locked in.
yeah. So, but Brightline has honestly saved me in many ways. It's allowed me the space and freedom just to be a person, to function every day. So I rely on it quite a bit.
It's a good reliance.
Do you find that sugar and flour thing really is the culprit in your life?
Yeah, and there's some other things that definitely trigger it. I read, like, right now, I struggle with like salted nuts and peanuts. Like, if I eat them, I go off the scale. Like, I'll lose it. And so I'm like, okay, I'm done with these. Even though it makes me a little sad, but I like being a person. I also kind of, I guess I struggle a little bit just because I'm kind of entering a new phase of life where before, I was all alone because I was so fixated on the food that I couldn't have people around me, because it's like, if people are around you, they notice that, like, oh, you haven't eaten for 5 days, or like, oh, you are eating like way too much. Like, So it's like, I didn't have anyone. And now like my life has just completely opened up where it's like, I have friends, a boyfriend, a job, I have,
Wonderful.
I have a whole lot, but there's a whole lot more challenges that kind of come with that, where it's like eating is such a social and emotional thing. I actually, for work, so I have a degree in nutrition because I got so obsessed with it. I got a degree in it. And so I work in an industry where we make nutritional supplements and things. And I was actually in a meeting today where they were kind of going over the science of like taste and how you perceive it, just from scientifically and psychologically. And a lot of it, a lot of your taste comes from your sense of smell. And your sense of smell has nothing to do with the logical part of your brain. It's very deeply embedded in your emotional part of your brain. So eating is like, it has no logic to it. It's like, it will trigger emotional things. And so it's like, you have to kind of worry about the science, and Susan Pierce Thompson does a great job at that. And she also has kind of, in her newest book, has kind of addressed more of the emotional side, where it's like, okay, you kind of have to like dig deep in yourself and recognize like your parts, and like what is contributing to these things, and kind of make an experiment out of it, and keep moving forward.
Keep a journal, because a lot of it is, I noticed that it's habits, or things trigger you, like you said, a sense of smell, or when you see things, whenever you or drive by a restaurant or someplace that you were with somebody you love, and these all trigger events, and they can trigger you to want to eat something. Or if whatever, you're at work and somebody brings in your favorite pie, and then it starts smelling like whatever, Christmas or something like that, and you're like, oh yeah, it's Christmas, I can eat. Is it Christmas time? You can have your treats and stuff. So there's triggers like that trigger habits. So getting rid of the sugar and the flour stops the cravings, but then you still have to address the habit and the emotional and the mental side and all of those connections. And part of the connections is like your connections with family members or spouses and stuff like that, going out to eat, and those are tricky places that you have to learn to navigate with staying in the lines, or at least on the lines.
And a part of that.
See, I'm a line dancer. I'm a middle birth kid. So I like to dance like right on the line. Like, how far can I be on the line and maybe slightly over without falling off?
As long as I have a toe on the line, my legs can stretch on one side or the other. My foot is on that line, I'm okay.
That
You
is
have
so
to
funny.
know your personality type too, to know and I like to tweak things to see if it works. And then I get in trouble.
But what's, Campbell, interesting that you immediately identified the pattern with the peanuts that resembled, and immediately, were able to correct course, which is what's wonderful about the program. It gives you the insight to look for those.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot in kind of her newest book that I read. It's really interesting. She goes over basically kind of modifies like the precepts of like the first book, where it's a little bit more like stay in the lines, and if you fall out, just get right back in. And so like she kind of goes over in this book like, if you feel like you are at a point where you can handle something, and you want to experiment and try, like to bring those into your life, or, evaluate things that are currently in your life and may not, they're technically in the lines of the program, but, they're they're not in the spirit of the program, you know, like.
Resume.
Yeah, Resume is really good. It's really, really good. The precept of Resume is basically, I can kind of pull it up actually. I can screen share. Parts theory. It is, I don't have it up, but it's basically like you have your core self, and this core self is like, you know, this is like you. It's, you know, it's a compassionate person. It's a creative person. It's, you know, a really great, you know, I don't know if you're religious or anything, but I am. And so, you know, it's you as a child of God, you know, like who you really are. But, you know, obviously we live in a fallen world. And so you have what's called the wounded part, you know, that kind of sits on top. And that usually comes from childhood. And so it's something that you couldn't process as a kid. And you know, so you just kind of like threw it aside. And now it's like your issue. And, you know, you can have a bunch of wounded parts. And so what stems as you get older, you know, and you mature and you function in the world is you build these supporting parts. And the two general categories are a managing part, which is, you know, that's the one that keeps you functioning, you know, makes you do your chores, you know, keeps you in your bright lines. And then, you know, if something breaks through that managing part and pokes at your wounded parts, you know, the indulger takes over, or, you know, the firefighter, it's also called, where, and that comes in many different forms too, where it's, you know, it's not a bad thing necessarily. You know, some people have trained their indulgers to, you know, to seek prayer or to, you know, go take a walk.
Exercise a lot.
Yeah, exactly. But most people, you know, it's like eat, you know, or, you know, do drugs or do the, you know, like it can be bad too. But, you know, the essential functions of these parts is to protect you in a sense. So the goal kind of is that she lays out in the book is like, understand your parts, you know, like for me, you know, my wounded part, for example, is, you know, I have trouble feeling like I belong. So like I was born into a family of all boys and, you know, I didn't really quite fit right. And then, you know, I was the only, you know, kid in a divorced family in a, you know, small Catholic community. And then I was a teenager, and that's a mess of trying to belong, you know, you're jockeying. And then I was a nobody because I was, you know, dealing with my own personal dramas. And now it's like, okay, well, we're trying to get back to, you know, belonging and fitting in. And that's like hard. And so I have strong managing parts where it's like, we cannot fail. But when you're kind of like that, she mentions, you know, like when you'll kind of reach a peak, and then if you fall off, then you just crash yourself because you're like, I'm a failure, I didn't do it, you know, I might as well just jump off the deep end, you know, because I already took that first step. And so the goal is kind of, you know, if your bad parts are down here, you kind of want to like ride the wave up here, you know, like maybe you have a little bit of a slip, but, you know, you're managing it, you know, like if I had, you know, peanut butter one day and it was a little bit much for me, then it's okay. Well, we can evaluate that, and that's, you know, we don't have to do that anymore, you know? So it's just interesting, and I think it's really cool because even if, you know, most people like in this program don't do it the same way, but like they make a plan and they keep to these, you know, basic tenets, and it works, you know?
Well, that's what I think I liked about it, is somewhat individualized in that sense. You know, you make it your own rather than. It's-
Yeah, exactly. Like she was mentioning in the book, you know, some people experiment with like Ezekiel bread and things like that, which is, it's technically not flour. It's like a sprouted grain and they kind of like grind it into a paste and they make the bread from that. So it's like, it's an alternative, you know? And so some people who feel like they can handle it, they experiment with that. Or, you know, like there's some people don't even bother weighing things out. They just do the one plate rule and they section it off, you know, the way the government has you do. And
Farah, when
Or-
you read the book, did you start yet or you just read
So,
the book?
yes.
I know you got your scale.
So Saturday, Monday, we started cutting off sugar and flour. We haven't started the measuring part so much. I do for the breakfast, but I have, you know, I haven't done for every meal because I'm still organizing myself.
yeah, it's okay.
You feel like you need some time to figure out. I'm like, first stop eating these extras, then start or structuring the parts to eat and what to eat, what not to eat, you know.
Yeah,
Do you have the cookbook?
No, but I want to get it. I wrote
That
it.
helps so much because you're like, what's okay to eat? What's not okay to eat? And what the cookbook does is it not only gives you ideas for what would be acceptable, but good ways to prepare them, how much you have to use for each one, how many portions that one recipe makes. And I wouldn't have been able to do it without that cookbook. It was, if nothing else, it helped me to, you know, one, it showed me which things I needed to buy to get started. I mean, truly, there was a 14-day challenge I paid for. And it
which
says,
is only
okay,
$14, or at least it was.
yeah, it's, if you haven't looked into that, try that.
Yeah, that's another thing I wrote down.
Yes, good job. Anyway, that the 14 days, like, okay, get your ducks in a row. So a month, it took me from the time I signed up to the time I actually started, it took me a month. It's like, okay, I have all this food in the house. I'm going to shovel it in, make myself weigh as much as I can before I get started.
lose weight.
Yeah, get rid of, this is get it out of your house. Well, okay, I'll put it here instead of in the trash. Don't want to waste food. Let's be real. I'll waste it here on my waist.
Yeah,
So-
you'll put it on your waist instead of the trash can.
Exactly. Well, it just, you know, it gave me that much more to go, oh, look how much I've lost.
That's true.
But
I've
It's-
lost a lot of pounds over the years because, you know, you lose them and you find them and then you re-lose them. So
yes, well,
I have
they're, you know,
changed the wording, and I'm going to suggest this for the group. You do not lose weight. Because in my mind, when you lose something, I am fierce about finding it. I don't lose because just get driven to find the damn thing. Like today, I could not find a piece of paper and I just looked for it until I found the daggone thing. I couldn't, it's like, so anyways, I let go. I let go. And
I'm in
I
the
let
process of letting a whole bunch of things go.
So I
that's-
let
Let
things
go of
go.
my weight.
So that's a choice to let things go, release it, let it go. Because then my mind doesn't go, I have to go find the damn thing. So that's for me. I don't like that way, that word lose weight. Let it go. Release it, let
I'm
it go.
going to write it then.
And lovely Zoom is telling me we have less than 10 minutes because I do have an upgraded paid for account. And that's one of my frustrations, that it's already upgraded. It's already paid for. They have my money and they're still not giving me the upgrade. So it's really annoying. So we're only going to have a couple more minutes.
Well, it's my husband's birthday, so he's not real thrilled that I'm doing this anyway.
Happy
Aw,
birthday, Mike.
I will tell him you all said so. But
So
I've enjoyed this and I want to keep doing this. So that
Oh,
was
is
good.
definitely.
Tuesday at 8 p.m. good for everybody?
Yes, yes.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yep.
So these 2 days we ate cereal for breakfast. I have had colon cancer way back when, and since then I just cannot eat certain things too much of. Like cereal with milk and all 2 days in a row, I'll be dead. Or by the third day, I'll be dead. It's the same thing. I cannot have so much of it in a row. So for breakfast, what you do? I mean,
You mean cereal like a whole grain, like oatmeal or something?
like shredded wheat. I have shredded wheat and mix it with, fruits and milk.
Okay. Oatmeal. I eat oatmeal a
But
lot.
oatmeal is the same as the others. Any type
And
of cereal.
You can have eggs. You can have 2 eggs.
One of the meals in the book, in the cookbook, is to take mashed sweet potato and toast it, cook it on the griddle. And then I used that and I would put a fried egg on it. So you get the egg mixed in with because I like I like to have over easy on toast. And of course we can't do toast. So I did that on the sweet potato and it was actually really good. So
I make oatmeal buns, which have no sugar or flour in them. And I use that with my dippy eggs, over easy eggs.
Oh, that sounds good.
Oatmeal buns are definitely on the fringes, but
So I count it as my oatmeal, as my grain. But
yeah, they have peanut butter and they have fruit and they have eggs, and,
actually, the last time I made them, I think I forgot the peanut butter, but
find the cookbook. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. So I've experimented a lot with breakfast. I will definitely do sweet potatoes. I'll like cube them and roast them. And so I'll just keep them in my fridge so I can pull them out and I just mix it with some fruits and, whatever comes with it. I've also gone like full savory breakfast. So more of like a Mediterranean, where I've had like beets and carrots if I want a little bit of a sweeter vegetables, something a little heartier, or I've gone straight to like, just vegetables with some hummus in the morning, and, so it's kind of interesting how, culturally in the United States, you kind of fixate on a sweet breakfast, but there's many.
I know, that's the thing. I was just thinking that.
And like, I've actually, I don't know, kind of through this journey, I've experimented a lot in cooking just because I find it so fascinating. And there's a lot of cultures that eat savory breakfast. They eat a piece of salmon in the morning. They have soup for breakfast, and so it's kind of interesting. I just do it because culturally I prefer, a sweeter breakfast. So I'll have either, sweet potatoes or morning, but I have tried the other ones and they're not bad. They're pretty good.
Yeah, no, what I found was interesting that she said like with her children, she puts the fruit, but not as a dessert, like this last thing, but as a part of the meal to eat. So you don't give it this concept that a meal should end with something sweet, which I thought that was interesting. Like a meal doesn't need to start with something sweet.
Yeah, and I've definitely had to overcome that myself where it's like, okay, maybe I'll try, like, I've definitely done a lot of like Mediterranean salads that will have, citrus in the salad, they'll have like oranges or, they'll have different, sometimes some will have grapes in them and it's like, okay, why not, instead I'll just put 6 ounces of syrup.
So you can have any grain, any whole grain, barley, bulgur, probably couscous, the cream of rice, cream of wheat, oatmeal.
Yeah.
Just have 2 eggs with sweet potato. Sometimes I use butternut squash instead of sweet potato. And then your
You
fruit.
can say sweet potato, but you can have regular potatoes too. Like I just like sweet
You
potatoes.
make hash browns, shred your potato,
Yeah.
make your hash browns. I did that the other day, measured my 4 ounces. Quite
I
well.
made like kind of almost like a breakfast wrap, but instead of like a wrap, I just do like a really thin thing of eggs and I wrap it in the eggs.
Oh.
But that kind of takes a little bit of preparation. I usually do that like the night before so it can sit in my fridge and, so you can actually hold it,
Mhm.
be one piece. But that's really good too.
In other words, just experiment and try what works for you. I mean, I normally am switching between eggs or oatmeal. That's
Okay.
pretty much what I go to in the morning.
A lot of it too, kind of, and we talked about this in
We
my
got
meeting
2 minutes,
today.
so
Okay,
speak
I'll wrap it
quickly,
up.
guys.
A lot of it too is like your own, like your perception of taste and like the food experience is like just your own expectations, like,
Yeah.
and they actually note that in like, a business meeting and, it's like, it is a lot of just, kind of getting your attitude right in a sense. So I don't know.
The one thing I know is that the cravings go away, your energy goes up, your mind gets clear, you're much happier, much more able to deal with whatever is coming at you when you do not have sugar, especially for me, but sugar and flour.
Mhm.
It's great plan. It's simple. It's a simple plan, and it works. It's not always.
That's what I liked about it, the simplicity of it. Don't
And
do
you get-
this.
Yeah, you get to express your own creativity with the food and the meals you make, and they're beautiful. The colors of the fruit and the thing. But we gotta go because we're gonna get cut off. So I love you
Thank
guys.
you.
Thanks for getting
Yeah,
on.
thanks for coming on.
Tuesday at 3
Thanks so
p.m.
much.
Invite a friend. We gotta change the world one person at a time.
Sounds like
Love you guys.
Bye.
Love you too. Bye-bye. Bye.